we discussed the portion of Heart Sutra, which was the dialogue between Śāriputra and the Ayushman Śāriputra and Āryāvalokiteśvara. And the main context of the dialogue last time was the deep and profound contemplation on five aggregates being empty of intrinsic nature. So today's lesson on Dharma vocabulary that we're going to do is of the portion where it is, so the entire context is more or less related to the very name of the lesson, which is the fourfold emptiness. So a very wonderful concept that is very much used both in understanding and in debate on emptiness as in context of dependent origination, as well as analyzing the two truth, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. So therefore, today we're going to dive in that very portion, which is a very wonderful portion, and also the basis of all the teaching of Buddha, which is the two truth. So the topic is very wonderful, and we will discuss it on the basis of language. So therefore, we won't be going too deep into that. I have actually written a lot of context for the verse that you can go and check, and that if you want to further understand this, you can ask me, or you can ask anyone else to whom you can ask about this. I have I have made the reference to the verse, the text, the chapter, so that you can every one of you can go and check it, which is so now I will share the screen, so those who are able to view the text clearly on your screen, please view them. I have sent it in two formats, the PDF format and the Word format. And those who are not able to view it clearly, you can view it on the screen sharing that I'm sending. So let me share the screen. And okay, we have this, do this, and this. Okay, so a quick addition. Very sorry for this. Okay, so before we begin today's lesson, so last time we talked about the 8 near sons of Buddha, those bodhisattva which were close to Buddha at the time of Buddha's journey in search of truth. Not only that, these 8 bodhisattvas were also guiding Buddha towards the understanding of the emptiness. And so one of the reference that is taken normally, which is in support to the statement, a line from the first verse of Madhyamika Avatara, which states, so I will recite it in Tibetan. It states, Sangye Chanju Semba Le Chungshin, which Sangye Chanju Semba Le Chungshin, which means that the Buddhas are the Tathagats, the Buddhas are Buddhas arise from the Bodhisattva. And in that very line, when we talk about Buddha being arising from the Bodhisattva, we make the reference to Buddha Shakyamuni, who was not a Buddha at that time, transcending to the state of Bodhisattva and later Bodhisattva of the first ground of seeing. and this was done by the aid and the support by the Bodhisattva Manjushri. At that time, Bodhisattva Manjushri, but the thing is that, so therefore this is a very confusing concept, because it's in the sutra, so therefore Bodhisattva Manjushri. But Manjushri, in the context of Vajrayana, is considered to be a deity, a personal sacred deity, which in Tibetan we call Hi Tam. Hi means mind, and Tam means commitment, to make commitment from the mind. So the one to whom you make commitment. So Idam is a word which is very beautiful, because it means that what it means is that you are making commitment to that particular deity and saying that I'm going to follow that. I'm going to follow whatever path that you have shown and attain enlightenment in your state. So that is called Idam. I means mind, Tam means commitment. So very big commitment. So Vajrayana, of course, very big commitment. So getting back to the topic, so therefore we see that these 8 near suns, 8 main bodhisattvas, which I have sent in the group, through the Āryāvalokiteśvara, the first one is Āryāvalokiteśvara, then Arya Manjushri, Arya Vajrapani, then we have Arya Shritigarbha, Arya Akashagarbha, then we have some Arya Samantabhadra, and then Arya Sarva Nirvana Visambhi, if I'm not wrong. So in Tibetan, Pawa Chiresi, Pawa Jambeya, Pawa Chana Doje, Pawa Sainingbo, Pawa Namkiningbo, Pawa Kundu Sambo, Pawa Tipsi Tumaknisi. So last one. So therefore, you see, these are the 8 near suns. So therefore, as a sign of auspiciousness, I've decided that we will include their name in the and then we will include a verse on each of them, 2 of them each class, before we begin the class. So we will include a verse as a homage to all of these 8 bodhisattvas, so that our class would proceed without obstacles, and that may all of us be able to gain the knowledge that we aspire for by the blessings of these 8 bodhisattvas, Buddha of 3 times. Okay, so first is a verse that is homage to Āryāvalokiteśvara, and I will send the English translation later on in the class. Today there was a slight technical issue which needed to be solved. So therefore, the English translation was not included here. So I will send the English translator later in the group. So thank you for everyone's understanding and patience. Okay, so let me recite the first verse. Tesum deshe ningje ngoni tuze chembe drowa yong la si tuki wugu drowe donga se pawa jende sila chatelo om manipeme hum. So the verse actually translates to the one who is the essence of all the compassion of the Buddha, one that is the embodiment of the compassion of Buddhas of 3 times, the Tathagata of 3 times. The word Deshik, Tathagata. So Tuse Chembe Drowa Yong La Sik. With the greatest compassion, you look over all the sentient beings. Tuki Hugyun Drowe Dungasa. The elixir, the river of elixir that flows from your compassionate heart, which dispels all the suffering of the sentient beings. I bow to you and I prostrate to you, I pay homage to you, O Āryāvalokiteśvara. And then the mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum. So this mantra itself, it has a meaning, which if anyone is interested, I mean, His Holiness has most wonderfully explained this, the meaning of this mantra in the context of practice, in the context of uh, understanding each term. So further still, if someone wants me to remind what His Holiness has said about this, then please ask the question in the group and I will answer it there. Now, the second verse is paying homage to Arya Manjushri. So, in this context, please remember it is Arya Manjushri and not, or Bodhisattva Manjushri and not Buddha Manjushri. So, Kangi Kembe Yishi Jimmy Chan to Sung Deshi Shira Ngoni Reti Meba Chanwe Tatrusel Power Jambe Yang Chatselo Arapata Nati. So, the first line is Kangi Kembe Yishi Jimmy Chan. The wisdom of one's mind, which dispels or which purifies the two stains. So two stains, stains by afflicted mind, stained by afflicted wisdom. So in Tibetan we call it Shutip and Yuntip. One because of the one due to the three afflictions, and one due to the impression due to the impressions of the three afflictions. So two stains. So the wisdom of one's mind, which purifies the stains, the two type of stains. The one who is the embodiment of wisdom of the Buddhas of three times. Reti Mebar Changwe Tadrisa, the one beholding the blade, the blazing blade of wisdom, which illuminates the path to liberation. I prostrate to you, I bow down to you, I pay homage to you, O Arya Manjushri, Om Arapazanati. So this, I think a few classes ago, the question was asked about the meaning of this word, Arapata. This I have tried to find, and I'm still trying to find the meaning, because it's not very apparent in many contexts, only available in certain sutras. So when I find a definite answer, not a vague one, but a definite answer, I will answer on this. Until then, please understand that the answer is still in process. Searching the answer is still in process, and thank you very much for having patience for the delay in answering. So I will answer this when I get a definitive answer, in which I will have a confidence within me to share with you. Okay, so with these two verses, I pay homage to the two great bodhisattva, and by the blessings of which, let us begin our class. So today we are going to cover this from here to this portion. So first, let me just read the so when we talk about the fourfold emptiness, we talk about this four lines. So if you are able to see this, these four lines. So let me just copy paste it so that I can isolate this. I can isolate this somewhere here. So these four lines. Su Tongbao, Tongba Ni Su 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 Leke Tongba Ni Shemai, Tongba Ni Leke Su Shemai no, is known as the fourfold emptiness. So therefore, the entire context that you're going to see after this, till the point that till the end point where Āryāvalokiteśvara says that there's like when it comes in the context of ultimate reality, there is no absolute existence, or there is no inherent independent existence of even the Four Noble Truths. By stating each of them, from suffering to the path, and then there is no achievement. There's no achievement. So that is all in the context of the ultimate reality. So till that point, we must understand that we're talking about the fourfold emptiness. So that is the title of today's lesson, actually. And so we will begin by explaining the first. We will begin by explaining the terms, and we will do the elaboration as we reach each of the terms that needs elaboration. So Sukh is first of the five aggregates, Panchaskandha, five aggregates. So the first of the Panchaskandha is the Rupaskandha, or the form. So therefore Sukh, which in English is form, so anything that constitute as form. Normally, when we talk about form, we talk about two types of form, which is the shape and color. So therefore, it could be any of the shape, and then it could be either of the primary or the secondary color. So that is the form. And so out of the five aggregates, Sukh means the form. So the thing is that in this context, we understand that first the form is taken as the aggregate. So we know that since the previous class was about deep contemplation on the five aggregates being empty of nature, so therefore here it is done even more thoroughly, and even more and in the context of more subtle analysis of these five aggregates being empty of intrinsic nature. So first one out of the five aggregates is the aggregates of form, which is the form. So the form. So here it states that Sutombao, which means that the nature of the form is empty, or of emptiness. So here we see a very peculiar particle. We see a very wonderful particle here, which I was already referencing from few classes ago. This is the recompound particle. But here, recompound particle is doing something more than just being an indicator. So let us go here. So recompound particle usually, so the recompound particle is, in most cases, acts as an indicator of the conclusion of a narration. So when we talk about a narration, very important word, narration, we talk about a set of statement. It could be a singular statement, it could be a singular word, it could be an entire paragraph, or it could be a entire literature. So when we say a narrative, it is it has quite many different variations. So we may be talking about form. So we may be talking about the particle, recompound particle, acting as a indicator of conclusion of a narration, which states that whatever has been said to the point that we're using this particle is a single narration. That is, it should be treated as a single narration. That is, everything in the context of this narration is related to each other. There may be context, they may be referential, they may be they may be reference. But everything till this point is in one narration. And that whatever is going to be stated after this belongs to the next narration. And so there are 11 recompound particles. There are 11 recompound particles in Tibetan. These are ko, ngo, to, no, homo, rolo, so, to. So these are the 11 recompound particles. And so in the 30, we classified these as dependent particles. And those who are joining me for the grammar class, you already know what dependent particles are. Dependent particles are the particles, grammatical particles, which associate with name. The name, those who have joined me, who have been joining me since last classes, you already know why I have written the capital letter those who are new, please understand that the reason why I have written this capital letter is to indicate that this name is refers to all the terminology. It refers to all the terminology, meaning that it is name, because in Tibetan we have only two terms to refer to a grammatical structure that makes a meaning. One is tik, which is word, and other is ming, that is name. But the problem is that even under the ming, which is the name or the terminology, there are two types of terminology. One is the naming word, and other is the rest of the word, which does not represent a phenomena as a name. But now the problem is that even in that word, we have to refer to it as naming or mingtik, naming word. So that is the reason why when we talk about the terminology, we have the capital N. When we talk about the naming word, we use the smaller case N. So we see that therefore, so here we see that dependent particles refer to those particles, those grammatical particles, which are associated with the terminology on the basis of the suffix letter. So therefore, this is the general understanding of suffix letter. But now we're going to understand this in the context of the text. We're going to understand it in a deeper level because it requires us to understand this in a deeper level to understand this particular text when it comes to the terminology or vocabulary. So, but one of the usage of the recompound particles is in case of the first grammatical case. So in Tibetan, there are 8 grammatical cases. These different cases are different. These different cases are statements which have different function. So what do I mean when I say function? That is, some of these cases a function to show an action is done at a particular place. Some of these cases shows an action is done by someone or something. Some of these cases are relative case showing relation between any two particular phenomena. Some shows the position. Some are just vocative, where you call someone, the way you call someone. And some shows the relation between the source and the product. So therefore, each of these different cases have different function. And since these have different function, we understand them in the context of their own function, and therefore there are 8 classification of these grammatical case. So we understand that the recompound particles can be used as a conclusion to indicate conclusion of a narration, as well as it could be used in the context with the first grammatical case. And now the understanding comes here. So when the recompound particle is associated or used as the first grammatical case, in the usage case of first grammatical case, we understand that this case is going to be very interesting now when it comes to the first grammatical case, which shows the mere identity, or which represents the mere identity of a phenomena. So therefore, the first one is that it's interesting because it has a function where it's a direct indication of usage of the naming word. So it's directly used with the naming word. But when we use it with the naming word, we understand that the recompound particle has the ability to indicate a conclusion of a particular narration. So therefore, that particular naming word becomes a single narration. What do I mean by that? Is that it becomes a single individual unit of meaning. And so the inferential usage is to individualize each naming word, meaning that to isolate the meaning of each naming word without having to understand the meaning of that word with the reference to any other naming word or with association with any other naming word. So therefore, we understand that when we talk about the individualizing of each naming word, an individual unit of meaning, we are trying to isolate that particular naming word, so that this naming word has a meaning that does not arise by association or in context with other words. So this very property of individualizing the naming word has an inferential understanding, and that is that these when we use these recompound particle with certain type of naming word, what happens is that it tends to also indicate the pervasiveness of a particular naming word or a phenomena on another phenomena. So if in a statement there are two phenomena and this recompound particle is used after the second phenomena, but in a way that it indicates that the second phenomena's nature is pervasive towards the first phenomena. So let me provide an example. So if we state one may understand this and translate it as all phenomena are impermanent. That is to directly equate it as this is this. But the correct translation, because there is an influence of the recompound particle over the entire statement in this case. So one thing that I have been mentioning in last class, I think probably one class before the last class, was that certain type of particle, like the recompound particle, do not translate directly in a word. That is, you do not have an English counterpart or English word which is the direct counterpart of the recompound particle. And therefore, what we do is that to compensate for that, we try to treat the recompound particle as a influence over the entire statement, rather than being something of a word that is stated directly in the statement. What we do is that we take it as an influence over the entire statement. And so this influence inferentially tells us that when we talk about this influence, it inferentially gives an understanding that, oh, if that is the case, then the very nature of the word that it is associated with, the name that is associated with, should be pervasive to the second naming word if it is written in that particular context. Like in this case, we see that we have two naming words. First one is ch, which means phenomenon or dharma. Then we have mitak or mitapa, which means impermanent or impermanence. So impermanent. So we see that the recompound particle is associated with the impermanent. So therefore, instead of stating that the very phenomena is the second phenomena, we say that the nature of the first phenomena is that of the second phenomena, which is the phenomena that is associated with the particle. So here, instead of directly understanding it as all phenomena are impermanent, we understand it as the nature of all phenomena is of impermanence. So instead of saying that the phenomena is impermanent, we talk about the nature. But the thing is, one may ask that, why did you specifically talk about the nature? And then I will say that this is an inferential understanding of the first grammatical case. And so we use that particular understanding of that particular inferential understanding of the usage of the first grammatical case to talk about the nature of things, to indicate the nature, because one very big factor that individualizes any two phenomena is the nature of the phenomena. Because characteristic nature of the two phenomena definitely two phenomena can have a common nature, but then there are things that individualizes each of these phenomena as a separate phenomena on the basis of a particular defining nature. And so what we do is that by the usage of the recompound word in this context, which is the usage as the first grammatical case, we individualize the phenomena by putting emphasis on the nature that separates these two phenomena. So, for example, if we talk about a vase and a pillar, both of these have the common trait or common nature of being impermanent, and both of these are thus object. But then they have the characteristic that separates them, and that is their defining characteristic. For a vase is something that has a particular shape and holds water, whereas pillar is something that has a particular shape and is used as a support for a house. So therefore, by this definition, we understand that by this defining characteristic, we understand that these are two separate phenomena. And therefore, this particular usage case, that is of the first grammatical case, utilizes this very concept in order to individualize each naming word. And so we are using that very concept here to understand the inferential understanding that it states that the first phenomena should have the nature of the second phenomena. So the nature is pervasive to the naming word, the other naming word. And this also gives a more deeper understanding to this very line. Instead of just saying that all phenomena are impermanent, saying that all phenomena are of the nature of impermanence, it gives a more deeper understanding, and it gives more perspective, meaning it gives more ways of analyzing it. Now, instead of analyzing it as a phenomena which is pervasive, then as two phenomena classified as having a nature that is of not nature, characterized as the second phenomena, we can analyze one phenomena's nature and then the phenomena of the other nature, and then see the similarities or the understanding of the pervasiveness of that nature over the second phenomena. So in the context of analysis, this is also more. It has also more grounds of analysis, meaning that you can analyze it even more deeper and more for a longer time. So therefore, the very emphasis on nature is the influence of the recompound particle. So we were talking about the influence of the recompound particle over the statement, and the influence is the very emphasis on the nature of the two phenomena. And this is the influence of the recompound particle as a usage of the first grammatical case. So we're talking about the usage as the first grammatical case. So let me just read the first full line, and then let us first discuss the terms, and then afterward we'll continue. So it states that these four are the fourfold emptiness, each line indicating emptiness in its own way. So shen, which means other, so and also understood as separate phenomena. So shen is also understood as separate phenomena. Let me write this here. So shen in this context should be understood as tadeba. Tadeba means separate phenomena or other phenomena. So separate phenomena or other phenomena. So here shen talks about separate or other, which in Sanskrit is prathak, as you can see here, prathak. So in this fourfold emptiness, the first two is talking about the form being of the nature of emptiness, and emptiness being the nature of the form itself. And the second part of this fourfold emptiness talks that the form is not other than or not separate from the emptiness, and emptiness is not separate from the form itself. So here we see that the recompound particle is not used with any naming word, but is used with the affirmative. It is used with affirmative particle, which affirms that which affirms. Therefore, here, even though it's a recompound particle, it is not used in the context of first grammatical case. And if you want to identify the usage, if you want to see, you want to read and you want to read the text and say like, oh, here they have used it in the context of the first grammatical case. Here, no, it has not been used with the context of the first grammatical case. You must understand it in this very simple rule, that is because here you see that this tongba, which is emptiness, is a name, and therefore it is used with the name, thus the first grammatical case. Suk, form, which is a naming word, and associated with the recompound particle, this is of the first grammatical case. But here it is not a name, it is a confirming particle. And since it's a particle, it cannot be a naming word, because we said that all the terminology in Tibetan can be classified in two. One, naming word, other, the rest of the words. So this belongs to the rest of the word. And since it's not the naming word, it is not, and the recompound particle is associated with this particular word, we understand that this is not the usage of first grammatical case, and therefore we don't have to talk about the nature of things here. Okay, so here we see, and similarly in previous classes, we saw the usage of recompound particle mostly with the particles, and therefore all of those are not in the context of the usage in the first grammatical case. Okay, so so these four are the fourfold emptiness. So here we see that the yes. So kyang is in this case, kyang refers to is used as also, meaning that emptiness is also not separate from it is not only that it shows the pervasiveness of both of them to each other in a way that neither is pervasive, neither is more pervasive to each other. Kyang is actually a ornamental. In this case, it's used as the conclusive particle. What does it conclude? It concludes that not only the fact that the form is not separate from emptiness, it is also to be understood that the emptiness is not other than form. So therefore, kyang here is used in that very context, which tells us also inclusive particle. So it includes emptiness not being separate from the form, in the understanding that form is empty, form is not separate from emptiness. So therefore, this is inclusive particle. So usage as inclusive particle. So also, normally we say that he's also coming. I'm also going to the school. So also, so let me write it here. So this is the ornamental and inclusive case. So also usage cases of the inclusive case. So two usage case of this particle, ornamental and inclusive. This is the inclusive case. Okay, so it's translated as also. So okay, so shin, which is here it normally it is understood as other, but here in more the context of separate. So form is not separate from emptiness. Emptiness is also not separate from form itself or form. So we see that here pratak or shin is to be understood as tadepa or separate, but normally translated as other. And then now we see that after this we have teshintu, which means uh, like this, or similar to this. Teshin means similar. Teshintu means similar to this. Now we have already established the fourfold emptiness for the aggregate of form. Now similarly, it is the same for the rest of the four aggregates. That is the aggregates of feeling, the perception, the compositional factor, and then finally of the consciousness. So therefore, Teshinto means similar to that. So normally there's so Teteshino. Teteshin. No. Which translated to be it in that manner. Be that be it in this manner or that manner. In Hindi, we use the term tathastu. In English, it is be it in that way or that manner. To Teteshin, no. Teshintu. Okay, Teshintu. So tu is a particle. It is the particle which is the particle used in place of la. So there are 7 particles. So excluding la, there are 6 particles which are used in place of la when in a statement. And then there are 5 usage cases. The first case is of the case in which the action is shown to be done at a particular position, object, action object case. The second one is the purpose case, the reasoning case, and which is the 4th grammatical case. Then the 7th grammatical case, which is known as the position case, where it shows a position of a particular phenomenon. And then we have the subgroup of the 2nd grammatical case, which talks about the that itself, in which the object and the action are of the same nature. And then finally, the subgroup of the 7th case, which is of the time case, which tells us when an action was done. So tu is a particle of that particular grammatical case. And for this particular particle, we have already finished it in the grammar class. So if you would like to have a more elaborate explanation for this, please check the grammar channel, in which it is written as the particle used in place of la. Or simply search for the 2nd grammatical case. There you will find it. I will go through the list and I will see which lesson, what is the lesson number, and then I will post it in the group where you can then later on go to the channel, grammar channel, and then check this out. So very interesting particle here. To te shintu, be it in that way. So similar to that, similar to. So here in this context, it is translated as two. But it doesn't mean that this means this is always translated as two. Like we already discussed. Very sorry that I'm repeating this like a broken record, but I'm repeating this again and again. But we must understand that we will never, ever associate a fixed meaning to a particle. If you do this, it is going to be very, very, very difficult for you, because then you will have in some statement this particular particle have one meaning. In a different statement, it will have a different meaning. So according to the context. So in this context, it is two, similar to. So similar to that. So similar to that. So similar to what? Similar to the similar to that. That is a pronoun that refers to the form. So similar to form. Now we must understand this statement as so. If you want to actually understand it and then make it like a very firm in your head, what you do is you repeat these four again, but now instead of this form, you replace it with feeling. So, which is the nature of feeling is of the emptiness. The nature of emptiness is of the feeling. Feeling is not separate from emptiness. Emptiness is not separate. Emptiness is also not separate from the feeling. And then what you do is you replace feeling after feeling, you replace it by perception, touche. So, thoa, feeling. In Sanskrit, it is a Vedana. So Vedana Skanda, which is Thoe Pungpo. So the second aggregate, the aggregate of feeling. And after that, we have the third one, which is the touche, which is the perception. In English, it's perception. In Sanskrit, it's sangya. So touche, sangya, the aggregate of perception, and then touche thang, and then duche, which is the compositional factor. The compositional factor, duche, the one that is the factor which is composition of everything. The compositional factor, which is known as samskara, and then finally it is number shepa or namshe, number shepa, which is consciousness, mind, consciousness. Sheba, Rikpa, the same. Number Sheba, which is also same as Sheba. So these three words can be used synonymously. Sheba, number Sheba, Rikpa. So all of these can be understood synonymously, which means consciousness or mind. More like consciousness, sometimes also consciousness, sometimes also translated as awareness. So the state of awareness. And Rigpa is sometimes also understood as science. So science or knowledge. But that is depending on the context. So see, in Tibetan, everything depends on the context. So please pay attention to the context and you will understand which particular meaning of the word is being used here. So final is vijnana, which means consciousness. And then you do the same. What you do is that you replace this word, suk, with number sheba, vijnana. And then you what you do is that you follow the same thing. You recite it the same way. You say number sheba tomba ni number sheba sheba tomba ni number sheba tomba ni number sheba. So number sheba shema, you know. So this way you can what you can do is you can establish fourfold emptiness for the 5 aggregates. And the thing is that first, because I'm not providing any definition, so because of the lack of definition, that is because of the nature of class that we're having, I'm unable to provide more definition. That is the reason why the contemplation may not be there this there may not be much contemplation. But the thing is that if you ask someone who is well versed in the context of this particular sutra, as well as the philosophy of Madhyamika and Prasangik Madhyamika, most preferentially, or if you have your own preference, then definitely according to that philosophical school. But you ask them and they can explain to you the very meaning. And if you want to understand the meaning, you can also ask it to me directly. And when I can, I will try to provide you with the definition, elaborate definition on this. But what happens is that when you have the definition, now you can start contemplating using that definition. You have the fourfold emptiness. This is a practice, contemplation. You can contemplate, start contemplating. So yes, so let me continue. Very sorry for the for straying from the topic. So we go back to the vocabulary. Now Śāripu, which is the Śāritatepu, which is the Śāriputra. Theta means similar to that. Ch is dharma or phenomena. So it refers to dharma or phenomena. Tamje means entire. So let's see if we have this word. So tamje is entire, all. And in Sanskrit, it's translated as sarva. So we had that first, during the first class, we had this homage, the line of homage in which it says, Namo Sarvajaya, which means the omniscient one. And when we talk about the context of omniscient, comes from the etymology of omniscient in this case, comes from the understanding of sarva, which means all. Jaya means the one who possesses the knowledge, all, the entire knowledge. So omniscient, because they possess all the knowledge. So sarva, which is tamje. So we also have this, at the end of the class, always we have this sarva mangalam. Mangalam means auspicious. Sarva means all. It means may all be auspicious. And when we talk about all, we may be talking about all sentient beings. We may be talking about all the events actions that may happen after this. So may all be auspicious. So sarva. Sarvottam, another word is Sarvottam, which means it's a Hindi word. Sarvottam, Uttam means the highest. Sarvottam means highest of them all. So Tamje translates to all. So it says, Śāriputra, all phenomena are emptiness. So we have already discussed this term. Tombani means shunyata. Shunyata meaning emptiness. So there is difference between Tongba, which is Shunya, and Shunyata. One is emptiness, other is empty. Okay. Also, it says that since all phenomena are emptiness, Teni means lakshana. So Teni means the defining characteristic. So any phenomena, when we try to, so therefore we were talking about the first grammatical case. So it individualizes phenomena on the basis of the defining characteristic. So the defining characteristic refers to that particular characteristic which separates this phenomena from any other phenomena, though they may have similar nature. They have some common nature, but this particular characteristic or nature is the one that is emphasized, and thus it is used to separate the two phenomena. In Sanskrit, it is lakshana. Lakshana. So, as you can see here, and in English, it's defining characteristic. For example, the defining characteristic of water should be that it should be fluid and it should be wet. And the defining characteristic of fire should be that it should be hot and it should be burning. It should have the characteristic of burning. So these are known as the defining characteristic. So here we see that, so here it depends on how you want to interpret this. If it's interpreted in the context of the Prasangika Madhyamika, it is a direct attack to the understanding of, it is a direct attack to the understanding of conventional reality to be absolute. If you look at in the context of, but then when we talk about it, it can be looked through all of these philosophical schools, because they have, since they have the difference in understanding of the conventional and the ultimate reality in their own context. So therefore, it may also vary. But here we talk about the mere imputation of name, and that defining characteristic as a term is also emptiness. So that is, and here we have the other thing, lakshana, but then we have the word which is not thenyi, it is thenyi mepa, which means where is it? Thenyi mepa, which means alakshana. So mepa is a negation particle. It's a particle. Mepa is a particle which is negation particle. We, those who are joining me for the grammar class, we will discuss about this in the grammar class in the topic of negation. And we will talk about negation also. We will talk about negation. In Buddhism, we have two types of negation. One is the affirming and non-affirming negation. And we'll talk about these negation also, because these become very important. But still, we'll have also other variation of negations there. So this is one of those negation particle, which is me. We have four negation: ma, mi, min, me. So this is the one of these four negation, me, which in Sanskrit, in this case, is as we see that it translates as a. So alakshana. Lakshana is the defining characteristic. Alakshana is lack of defining characteristic. Lack because of the negation here. Sometimes also translated as void of defining characters, but lack is much more, it seems, more familiar term, or more, it's a better term, more preferable. So lack of defining characteristic, alakshana. Since all phenomena are emptiness, so even its defining characteristic is empty of intrinsic nature. So when we talk about the negation, so this is something that I would like to say. I think we must, and this is something that His Holiness always tells us, that when we talk about the negation should be, in this case, the negation should be the negation, not a negation in that does not leads us to the nihilistic view. We have two extremes: the eternalist, the eternal view, and the nihilistic view. So madhyam, the term madhyam means a path that is not falling in both of these extremes. So when we talk about the negation, one must understand that negation doesn't gives us the understanding of the nihilistic understanding, saying that there is no definition at all. That's not the case. We must understand is that the definition is void of intrinsic nature. There is no intrinsically existing definition, meaning that the definition which is independent of any other factors. So therefore, these fourfold emptiness also should be understood as emptiness defined as the dependent origination, in the nature of dependent origination, and dependent origination defined as dependent origination understood in the context of emptiness. And to support this very argument, let me continue reading from this thing that I have written. So I'm very sorry that it has become very long here, and I hope that the information provided is not overwhelming. If that is the case, then I'm very sorry. I apologize. Please tell me, and then I will try to reduce the amount of information provided per class. So we continue. So the now talking now taking that taking in consideration taking that in consideration of the first two lines of the fourfold emptiness, we understand that lines are uh, form is of the nature of emptiness, and emptiness is of the nature of form, which also strongly points to the understanding the relation between emptiness and dependent origination. And for that, the first thing I'm providing is here. This is the 11th. This is the 11th verse of uh, the three principal aspects of path by Lama Tsongkhapa. So in that text, this is the 11th verse. This is the 11th and the 12th verse. 11th, 12th verse. So in the 11th verse, it says that the knowledge that appearance arises unfailingly in dependence, and the knowledge that they are empty are beyond all assertion. So we talk assertion and exaggeration in so assertion over something due to the self-grasping ignorance. So beyond all assertions, as long as these two appear to you as separate phenomena, as long as these two appear to be as separate, non-related phenomena, here can be no realization of the Buddha's wisdom. So the one who is understanding it in these two contexts, but still are understanding these two, that is the emptiness and dependent origination, as separate phenomena, they're still not able to grasp the wisdom of the Buddha. And then who is the one that has fully and perfectly understood this concept is that here is defined that yet when they arise at once, not each in turn, like it doesn't come like the first one came and after the second one comes, but it comes in a union, in a singularity, in a unity as one, but both together, then through merely seeing unfeeling dependent origination, certainty is born, and all modes of misapprehension falls apart. That is when discriminant of the view has reached perfection. So that is the point when one can say that they have understood the view of emptiness that is being taught by the Buddha in its whole entirety. Until that, if even though you're able to contemplate and understand things as dependently originating or a void of intrinsic nature, but you're not able to view them as singular or as a singularity or a unity, but as two separate phenomena which has no relation to each other, in that case, we must understand that the wisdom is still not attained. Once you're able to view them as unity, singularity, then the perfection of the view is attained. And then also to the support to this one, the chapter 22, verse 1 of the Mula Madhyamika. So you must understand that since we're talking about this topic, Mula Madhyamika Karika is going to be the core text in understanding it. So the 22nd chapter, verse 1, please check that. And then a lot of words from the 24th, the verse 8, the verse 9, the verse 18, the verse 19. All of these verses talks about emptiness in context of dependent origination. So it states that, so the verse 18, it states that that which is empty of nature, so there is in this existence, there does not exist a phenomena which is empty of nature and not dependently arising. For which that is dependently arising, it should be empty of intrinsic nature. And then the 18th verse supports this by saying that whichever that is dependently arising must be understood in the context of emptiness, for they are merely imputed, and understanding in that manner is the path of middle way. Yes, and in the 22nd verse is is the examining the Tathagat, where it states that Tathagat is not the aggregates, it's not without the aggregates. Aggregates are not aggregates, aggregates are not without aggregates. Tathagatas are not possessing of aggregates, but so what is a Tathagata? So this particular verse, 22nd chapter, verse 1, please check that. Yes, this particular verse of the second 22nd. So I know the essence of these in English, but sadly I don't know the English verse by heart. So please have patience when I recite them in Tibetan. Okay, and so this eighth verse is this particular verse is there, and so these verse are these I'm using this verse. The reason why I'm providing them is for every one of you to go and check them and then broaden your understanding of this concept, and also in a way to support the understanding that these fourfold emptiness talks about emptiness in context of emptiness in dependent origination. And so when we talk about the rupa, it talks about the conventional reality. Okay, so the eighth verse, it says that all the teaching of Tathagat is done on the basis of the two truth. One is the conventional and one is the ultimate truth. And without depending on the conventional reality, one is unable to comprehend the ultimate reality. And if one does not comprehend the ultimate reality, liberation is not possible for that person. So this is not the translation. This is just the essence of that verse. So the translation would be much different. I mean, the word would be much better than what I have used. So this particular verse is the verse 8. The verse 9 is this is the verse 9. So please check all these verses. If you check these verses, you will understand what I mean when I say that this fourfold, the fourfold emptiness talks about emptiness in context to dependent origination, and therefore it also talks about the relation between the conventional and the ultimate truth or reality. And then the fifth verse of the In Praise to Dependent Arising by Lama Tsongkhapa. So whatever that is dependently arising is empty of intrinsic nature. So that particular verse, and please check that verse also. So all of these verses, so to summarize, all of these verses supports the understanding that the first four lines that we have of today's lesson, which is the fourfold emptiness, is in context of emptiness as being so. Therefore, we see clear indication of being, form being of the nature of emptiness, and emptiness being the nature of form. That is, form is to be understood as something that is dependently arising, therefore the conventional reality here. And emptiness should be understood as the ultimate reality. So therefore, trying to view both of these in the context of each other. So by viewing the conventional reality arising the emptiness, wisdom pertaining emptiness, by thinking, by contemplating of emptiness, to see that everything should be referred to conventionally in the way that it is. And if we talk about the prasangic madhyamika, it should be mere imputation of name, by existing merely by the imputation of name. Like I said in the previous class, there's one line which says that which means that all the conventional reality is nothing but a system of terminologies. So therefore, please check these verses. And the first one, which is the three principal aspect path, is by Lama Tsongkhapa. the Mula Madhyamika Karika, I know that every one of you know that it's by Āryāvalokiteśvara. And then the independence in praise to dependence arising is by Lama Tsongkhapa. This was written by him when he was studying the idea, studying the concept of emptiness and dependent origination. And dependent origination is also known as the king of antidotes when it comes to subduing the affliction caused by the conventional reality, those these misconceptions created by the conventional reality. Dependent origination is known as the king of all antidotes. So Tende Gyapo, the king dependent origination. Okay, so he was reading on this, especially on dependent origination by Nagarjuna, and he felt such a great respect, reverence. He was crying and his heart was filled with so much joy at that very moment. And then he composed this very text, which is in praise to dependent origination. First, he praises the Buddha, who is the teacher who first taught the idea of dependent origination, and then he praises Nagarjuna, and then he praises dependent origination, and so also the emptiness. Okay, so that is the understanding of these 4 lines. And then you can, when you contemplate, after you listen to more elaborate understanding of this, after you revise all the verse here, and then understand these understanding, you can start contemplating, and then you replace the form by feeling. Afterwards, you go to the perception, then you go to the compositional factor, then you go to the consciousness. Okay, so yeah, and then yes, and then it says that Tsini, which is Lakshana, Tsini Mepa is Alakshana. And then we see the other one, which is Kepa, which means Utpanna. Kepa is Utpanna, to be produced. And the negation, non-produced, is Anutpanna, Makepa. So you see that these 2 negations are different. This is Mepa, Me, and this is Ma. Ma and Me are 2 different type of negation. And therefore you see that in Sanskrit, there is a different negation used here. Instead of A, it is Anutpanna. And this is because this doesn't translates to A, it translates to Na. So negation is also not, is also understood as Na and A. So here it's Na, but because of the writing, so the writing system in Sanskrit, the grammatical rules, it is like this. So yes, and then Utpanna means to be produced. Anutpanna means to not be produced, not produced, non-produced. And then we have Kakpa. Here we have Kakpa Me, right? We have the word Magakpa, which is Aniruddha. Niruddha means to be ceased, and Aniruddha means not to be ceased. So remember, like I said, when we talk about the negation, here negation should not be understood as should in a way that it leads to nihilism. It should be understood in a context where it is understood as negation of intrinsic existence. So it is not produced independently of any factors. It is not produced absolutely. That is not dependent on anything. So that is what we must understand when we say when we talk about the negation. But yes, so this is something that I wanted to just clarify here, because otherwise there are many instances where people feel that the Heart Sutra is talking about the nihilistic view, which it does not. So and then we have Tima, which is Mala. Tima, Mala, stain. So stain due to the stain of body, speech, and mind. So stain, Mala. And then the negation is Amala. And then without stain is Tima mepa, which is amala, which means stainless, and then Timadan toa mepa, which is vimala, not free from stains. So it is not free from stains. It is not with stain. It is stainless, and it is not free from stain. If you take the direct meaning, it might feel contradictory, and then it may lead to nihilistic idea. But here, like I said, it should be understood in the context of ultimate reality, that it doesn't exist ultimately or absolutely. Tiva means to decrease, to lessen. It is anuna. Tiva is una, and which means to decrease, and then tua meva is anuna, which means to not decrease, and then kangwa means purna, to increase, and the negation is asampurna, which means not increase. So here we see that from the very first context, which is of the fourfold emptiness, to the point of here, it all talks about dependently arising and ultimately not existing, ultimately non-existing, meaning absolutely non-existing, independently non-existing, innately non-existing, and intrinsically non-existing. So this is the meaning of na. Okay, so we will continue the class during the next class. We have time only till this, and so I will share the same file with the words that we have used in the class. So in the group with the material. So please check it there, and then if you have any question, you can ask then. And right now I can take 2 questions. So if anyone has question, please ask away. I can take 2 questions. After this, I will recite the verse of dedication, and then we will complete this class most auspiciously. Okay, so does anyone have any questions regarding today's lesson? In that case, if you have any, yes, please. If you have any question, you can also post in the group. Posting it in the group is very beneficial, and I wholeheartedly thank everyone posting it in the group, because it benefits everyone. And those who are also posting the assignment in the group, thank you very much. And those who are asking me directly also, I appreciate it very much. And with your permission, I will be I would like you to post the answer with the question in the group. That would be very beneficial to everyone. So therefore, thank you very much for the questions, and I appreciate it very much. Now, if that's the case, then I will recite the verse of dedication, and then we will call it a complete auspicious class. Okay, so, and I'll send the translation in later with the materials. So, Gewati Trugu Simjana Tavshi Sunde Lamla Chugune Deshi Kungi Yunde Rabzone Lama Chogi Koban Topasho Namo Guru Budaya. So it states that by the power of this merit that I have accumulated, that when I say I, please understand that, please, when you're thinking about this, think of yourself. So by being able to hold a class on such a wonderful sutra that is of the Paramita, so by the merits accumulated by this, may all the sentient beings be able to follow the path of liberation with the union of the method that is of the Bodhicitta, and the wisdom that is wisdom pertaining emptiness, wisdom pertaining emptiness. May I follow this path, and may I be able to accumulate the qualities, the entire qualities, the complete quality of all the Tathagatas, Samyak Sambuddhas, and may I be able to may all of them may all of them attain the qualities of all the Buddhas, and soon attain the highest state of the Guru. And Namo means I prostrate, I pay homage. Guru is the teacher, and Buddhaya is the Buddha. So I prostrate to you, O Guru Buddha. So this is the verse of dedication. And then before we complete this, let me do this small confession. So I apologize for the delay in attaining the enlightenment, and I apologize for my imperfect speech through which I am reading and teaching this most wonderful and perfect text. May the Buddhas of 3 time have patience with me. May the Bodhisattvas and Arahants have patience with me. May all the practitioners have patience with me. May all the sentient beings have patience with me. And most importantly, may all of you students have patience with my imperfect speech and my incompetence in providing this lesson in the most perfect way. So I will take this as a motivation to improve myself, so that very soon than later, I will be able to attain enlightenment. And I also pray to all the Buddhas of 3 time that may all of you and all the sentient beings attain the wonderful state and the highest state of Guru. And thank you very much for joining in. Thank you very much for your patience with me and my imperfect speech. And I hope that everything is auspicious. May everything be auspicious. Sarva Mangalam. And thank you. And Tashitele. And I will see you for the grammar class. I'll see you tomorrow. For the Dharma class, I'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you. That's all.